It's another weekly reset for Destiny 2 after the March update. This means there's a new Nightfall available to play and a new piece of exclusive Nightfall loot available to earn. After hours of grinding, because I cannot be one of those lucky people who get it first try, my group was able to acquire this super rare piece of loot. So in this video, we're going to take a look at that loot piece, talk about whether it's worth grinding for, and then present a Nightfall guide to help you guys grind and hopefully earn your own Nightfall exclusive loot piece. And so, let's get started. What is up, guys? Rick Cacus here, and today we have some very good news. Now, last week's Nightfall featured an exotic ghost as the Nightfall loot, and a pretty disappointing one at that. Thankfully, this week's Nightfall is the Tree of Probabilities strike, and that means we have a featured Nightfall weapon available to get. And not just any weapon, a fantastic one, the DFA Legendary Hand Cannon. Now, taking a look at the perks here, firstly we have Adaptive Frame, which is indicative of its damage archetype. Then we have 3 different ballistics, one increasing range, decreasing handling, one doing the same but with stability, and one splitting the difference. We then have Drop Mag to increase the reload, and then accurized rounds to increase the range. One of the most important, arguably the most important feature of a hand cannon. And then we have 2 absolutely fantastic top tier perks. Firstly, we have Opening Shot, a PvP all-star, which is going to make your first shot have more range and just be very accurate. But if you're not doing PvP, you can equip the second perk, which is Rampage, a PvE all-star perk, which makes it so that consecutive kills will increase your damage up to 3 times. We've really only had one major player for a hand cannon with Rampage, and it's the Raid Hand Cannon. The Raid Hand Cannon is of a damage archetype that does less damage per shot than the DFA. The DFA is doing the same damage as a very well-known hand cannon, the Better Devils. In fact, compared to that weapon, the DFA has better range, better stability, and pretty much better every single stat that matters. It's ridiculous. So if you don't care about explosive rounds, the DFA is just better than one of the best hand cannons in the game, period. I think for PvP, it's absolutely better. And during my time with the DFA, I hopped into a Heroic Strike, and this thing isn't just a beast stats-wise. It's a beast when you actually use it. You certainly do miss explosive rounds, as if you were using a Better Devils, but Rampage on this archetype is really, really great. The Raid Hand Cannon, yes, you can get things going with Rampage, but even with Rampage triggered, often you won't be able to get those single shot kills. The DFA doing more damage per shot than that weapon is really noticeable. Not only that, but remember during the March update, Rampage got a buff. It now does more damage than it used to do in terms of a damage increase, and it lasts a whole half a second longer before it becomes inactive. It was already one of the best perks in PvE, and now it's even better. So with that buff, I think you can make the argument that Rampage is actually a better PvE perk now than explosive rounds. So undoubtedly, the DFA is worth grinding for. I think it is the best of the 3 Nightfall exclusive weapons available from the March update. This is the week to grind, guys. So, let's say you want this gun, and I'm sure you do. What are some ways to grind the Tree of Probabilities Nightfall so that you can maximize your chances to get this weapon? Well, let's talk about my recommended loadout. And it's actually the same loadout as I recommended last week. The Tree of Probabilities has a ton of Cabal and Vex, and that means there's a lot of Arc coming from the Cabal cannons, and there's a lot of Solar coming from the Vex, coming from Hobgoblins and Scions. So, and by the way, the boss is Arc as well. So Void is your best option for a burn. You're going to be doing more Void damage, and you're going to be hit with bonus Void damage almost never during this entire strike. So that's definitely my recommended Singe. On top of that, A simple difficulty modifier of 7 to get the 2 times points bonus was what we found to be the best for farming. You're going to end with easily above 60,000 on a prestige run every time you do that. Remember, the higher your points, the better your chances of getting these weapons. Bungie has stated that they are actually tiered at certain intervals. Your chances will increase. Now, this is extremely likely to be tiered at the same levels as the emblem rewards. So once you get 40,000, you're going to get an increased chance to get the weapon, 60,000, another increased chance, and 80,000, another increased chance. Now you could go to 80,000, but remember, you're also trying to farm this as fast as possible. Even if you get 200,000 points, you're not likely to get this your very first try. Those who do are just very lucky. So you want to be able to balance getting as high of a score as possible while also doing this very, very quickly. And on that vein, there's actually a second farming method that you could use. The Tree of Probabilities is a unique strike in the fact that it takes place in the Infinite Forest, and that means if you wanted to, a secondary farming technique is saying, okay, screw the bonus because maybe it's only 0.1%, like Bungie hasn't released the actual percent chances and the increases that you get for an increased point system, so screw the points bonus, just go to a normal Nightfall, not even prestige Nightfall, and then skip all the enemies you can. In the Tree of Probabilities, you don't have to kill a single enemy. You just run to the doors, open them, and you can speed past the entire strike in pretty much 10 minutes or less. This is going to shave off potentially 5, 6, 7 minutes from your time, meaning that you can essentially run normal Nightfalls almost twice as fast as you can run prestige Nightfalls with the recommended settings I just gave. So it really depends on your team. If you can do a prestige Nightfall relatively easily and quickly, like you're aiming around 14-15 minutes, do that. But if you can't, definitely just forget prestige, go down to normal, and just run past all those enemies and just try to complete it as fast as you possibly can. Now back to loadout. Primary weapon, Purpose Scout Rifle, fantastic long-range weapon. Then you've got the Positive Outlook as your medium to close range weapon, and because you have Void Singe, you want a weapon that's capable of just functioning in a lot of areas. Then lastly, Sins of the Past, Massive Blast Radius, which is actually what you want because there's a lot of opportunities to kill multiple adds with a single shot. Obviously, all of those Void Burn if you can. And then I'm using a Voidwalker Warlock. And I think that's a very good class. However, I would definitely recommend, especially if you're running Void Singe, to run a Night Stalker Hunter with Orpheus Rigs. You are going to get so much more points from orb generation because of a Night Stalker than if you're running like all Sentinels or all Voidwalkers, etc. Now, as for the strike itself, for the prestige version, you definitely want to split the difference between running through the Infinite Forest as fast as possible, but while still killing enemies and getting points. So, I would say whenever there's a bunch of enemies grouped up, use a super, especially if you do have a Night Stalker with Orpheus. It gives you the flexibility to tether groups of enemies, get a bunch of points, get a bunch of easy kills, produce a ton of orbs, and then your Night Stalker is going to have his super back already, tether the next group of enemies, and so on. Also, really don't be afraid to utilize heavy in this part. Basically, every time you see an orange enemy grouped together with a bunch of other enemies, which happens a lot, fire a rocket in there, because that yellow health enemy is very likely to drop another heavy ammo brick, and you've just gotten a ton of points. However, again, it's important to remember, if there's that one harpy in the back, forget him. Like, don't go out of your way to kill those singleton enemies. Run forward, always be moving forward, kill the groups of enemies, but that's it. Now, once you get through the Infinite Forest, you're going to be presented with a ton of enemies. Definitely utilize this opportunity to tether and super and heavy and so on. But then after that, there is the opportunity to get more kills, definitely. But this is a part that we found we didn't need to do, and we were still easily hitting 60,000, which is, again, likely a threshold for getting an increased chance to get the loot, and killing these enemies wouldn't have gotten us anywhere near 80,000. So I think it's best to just skip all these guys on your Sparrow and then move to the next section of the strike, which right here you do want to take your time and kill all of these enemies. Also, quick tip, beware of the Scions. If you're gonna get killed by anything in this strike, it's gonna be the darn Scions. They are just hateful little things. Also, again, don't be afraid to use your supers. Like, you'll see me using my Nova Bomb against these, basic enemies, but I'm getting 4 orbs regenerated, and that means the Night Stalker's probably got his tether up, which means that I'm gonna get my Nova Bomb up as soon as he tethers. It's very easy to just chain supers if you're doing things properly. Now, moving on, we have the actual boss fight, and I would recommend for this part Nova Bombing right off the bat, especially if you have the Devour tree, because every single time the boss spawns initially, he stands still and takes out his gun and starts shooting at people, which means that he's going to get hit with that massively damaging Nova Bomb, and he's going to be standing still long enough that the lingering damage is also going to do a ton of damage to him. And this means that you can save your supers for the last part of the boss fight, and after you damage him with pretty much like 1 Nova Bomb and then some primaries, or 1 Nova Bomb, 1 rocket from someone, he's usually immune and going into the next stage, and then a bunch of ads will spawn. Well, that is perfect for your tether. You'll see in the background, I Nova Bomb off the start, the Night Stalker tethers all the ads spawning, and I get pretty much enough orbs to get my Nova Bomb back. I'm back to where I started, and we've done a ton of damage to the boss. Whereas if you utilize heavy, you're not going to have the opportunity. Heavy used is just heavy wasted, essentially. The second part, same recommendation. Nova Bomb him, and then utilize the tether to get a bunch of orbs to get your Nova Bombs back. Again, you don't have to use really any heavy, you can save that all for the last portion of this boss fight. Now, the last portion, however, can be a little bit tricky. The arena is really lacking cover altogether. Like, there's really no way to escape his shots unless you go down below on either the right or left side, which I would highly recommend. You'll see me do it. I can go down here, I can place my healing rift, and I'm pretty much completely safe. I can hop up every once in a while and check where he is, and that's the thing. You are totally safe down here. He will not get you as long as you keep track of 2 things. Number 1, where he is at all times, know where the boss is, because he will drop down to that lower area. You can avoid him easily by going on the other side of the pillar, and he will never really chase you down there. He'll drop down and then go back up. And number 2, keep track of the lasers. They will spawn and they will kill you, but they're pretty easy to avoid as long as you just kind of pay attention and know where they're coming. So down here you can jump up, use your grenades, use your rockets, very easily kill him. If you have enough heavy, by all means, try to kill him in one big spurt with your team. But again, if you're lacking, you want to go down to those lower areas, stay away from the boss's attacks, and just kind of slowly pick him down. And so guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. Now, if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. Now, if you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.